Saskatchewan,
Mhm.
we've been talking about.
Mhm.
A restaurant says, I need 10 restaurant workers, so 10 cooks or something like that.
Mhm.
If they contacted you today, what would that process look like over the upcoming month, or I guess from the minute that they would contact you?
It would be it would be okay. It would be the same as when there's no pandemic because within Canada we have no problem processing. ESDC is continuously processing LMIAs for as long as the LMIA makes sense. Um, so what is it for us in here? We're still getting job orders left and right actually, and this is actually a good time to start marketing for your services because um, when everyone is losing hope, you know, that's when you actually as a company you have to like brace yourselves and attack.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the RCCs I know who are just
Mm,
starting their companies, they're kind of sad, and then all
mm.
the because they don't know that there's so much business out there right now uh,
Oh yeah.
with that. Yeah, and so
Okay.
and then okay, so if you have that scenario where a restaurant in Saskatchewan contacts you today, would
Mhm.
your first step to be to look in your I was going to say Rolodex, your I guess your database of people and see if you have some workers here in Canada already who
Oh
are
yeah.
looking for jobs?
Yes, absolutely. Because we want to try to save as many people as we can. And with the COVID-19 program delivery, like it's been very friendly, but we don't know how long it's gonna last, including, those under visitor permits are now allowed to switch their status from visitor to student or worker within Canada, as opposed to what we have discussed earlier that they have to usually have to apply for visa and then go to the border and then get their permits there. That is being cut already, but this is not gonna last forever. Yeah, it's just easier and also more affordable for the employer because instead of paying for an airfare from overseas, that the worker is already here, and the worker can actually start the employment with the employer sooner than later, for as long as you submit a complete application and you request for this worker to start working for the employer while waiting for the work permit to be processed.
Yeah, perfect. And then alternatively, what would be the kind of timeline and process we're looking at if you don't have any kind of restaurant workers here and the restaurant can't find any people to work? So you have to look overseas.
Still, like from at least 6 months on average, 6 to 8 months, which like for us, like we're able to forecast. Okay, well then it's slow right now, anyways. But while it's slow, you apply now because if you don't see your workers within 8 months, it's not really gonna hurt you that much. But you expect to see them next summer or next fall, So it's just forward planning is what we do, what we tell the employers to do.
Oh, good. And then is that kind of idea, is that different? Because what we talked about were restaurant workers who are not
Mm-hmm.
prioritized, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is that timeline, is that idea different for prioritized workers now?
No, no, same. Because what happens is that these prioritized occupations, they also have their permanent residency eligibility, right? So, like you can expect that these workers are going to leave the employment for after like a year or no, 2 years or something like that. So it's good to have a good supply of workers for the employers, provided that these current workers are actually going to leave and do another thing or other things after they get their PR.
Mhm. Good. Let's move on to talk about essential occupations in the other category, I guess, which is health related occupations.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your view of this? To me, it sounds. I mean, I think every province really has something like this, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
The government, of course, wants as many health care workers as possible to come in. Quebec just announced a new program as well for orderlies and that kind of thing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I know a lot of doctors and that kind of thing. They're not ready to go to Canada. But in your view, is this something that the government just kind of announced because they're hoping to attract people, or is this actually working in bringing in medical professionals?
Actually, this is new. Well, not new. It's an old new, actually. The problem is that these occupations, especially the higher knock, up to paramedic occupations, actually, from the bottom up, uh, up to there. These occupations are regulated, and every province has their own regulatory body. So, like when you try and bring people in your province for these occupations, it's quite hard because the licensing requirement is already too much for an applicant from overseas. On experience, we brought registered nurses, but they're not registered nurses at first. They came as graduate nurses, and then they took their exam, and then they get their PR after. But in other categories, like for example, pharmacists, like can you imagine a regulatory body giving out license to overseas pharmacists? Like it's going to be difficult. More so for specialist physicians. How do you get work permits for these? It's just I believe that would have been like organizations having to work hand in hand with ESDC so that they can help each other, and at the same time the applicants can be recruited properly, because we as a recruiter, we don't have those knowledge, and like how do you find these, what's the requirements for these occupations, right, when it comes to work experience, for example.
Exactly. That's what Israel Roman was talking about
Mm,
in the other CPD. Was he pretty much made a whole business. He's got a few businesses now, I guess, but he pretty much made a business on what would you call it? Knock 3233 nurses and having them come to Canada, transition to getting their nursing license, which
mm-hmm,
qualifies them for PR, and then um, he knows the whole market because he's a hospital administrator as well who hires nurses, right? So
mm-hmm,
yeah, so for all the people out there, if you're thinking of finding a niche, I mean,
mm-hmm.
this is it. If you learn how to help pharmacists transfer their license to, the regulatory body in a province here, I mean, you're good to go. You've got a whole world of pharmacists at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in a practical sense, though, it seems like, in your opinion, this is something that was announced by the government, but they probably do not get too much traction with this, right? Just because they're not going to. I mean, you're not going to have a pharmacist from somewhere else show up
Mhm.
here and start working in a pharmacy right away, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay, perfect. I don't think we really need the break because we're almost at the end already. Geez, it goes by fast, eh?
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah. So just to reiterate a little bit, so we have this list of essential services for an RCIC here in Canada with a small business. What does this mean for those RCICs?
But how can we use this? Well, uh, again, going back to what I said earlier, that you find your niche from within first, within Canada. You find the employer, you find the industry that you are passionate with. Do you like helping the elderly? Do you want to save Canada by, like helping those nursing homes or helping the restaurants? Really, it's finding your niche in your community even. Where do you live? Where's your office? And what industries are within reach to you? Then when you hit just one employer, that's when you start looking for the workers, because like I said, there's really so many, applicants that would come to you and will do everything they can for them to get the job offer. List of essential services, you can break them down according to only actually 3 categories: healthcare, service, and manufacturing. What is it that you think you can do, or you can be passionate about? Because learning in immigration, the processes and stuff, like the system changes almost every year. And so if you just choose one that you actually will enjoy doing, then you're not going to be losing, you know. Mm,
For this one here, we answered this already. There is an isolation period, of course, for when
mhm.
workers come in Canada. Funny, I thought that maybe truck drivers are a little bit different because I don't really know the profession, but I'm guessing they're sort of alone in a truck, right?
Mm, yes, but when they come, they don't have the driver's license yet. So
Okay.
like you have to like go to a truck driving school in Canada, and then they take their class 5 license exams, and then they proceed to start the training, driving a truck, and then they take their practical exam, and that's the only time that they can start driving. But they don't go alone. They also have they drive in tandem for most of the time because they do long haul.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. You said yes, you've submitted applications through the expedited process, but it's not. It sounds the word expedited process doesn't really reflect what it is, right? You said that yours kind of go
Yeah.
to the top of the pile, I guess, but the timelines are somewhat similar, anyways. Any additional comments about fees, timelines with this prioritized? Um,
The which fees are we talking about? Fees that we charge, or fees the government would?
I was curious about both, actually. Most sometimes people don't really want to talk about the fees that they charge, but
Oh,
I think it'd be great to know, or if you're
mhm.
okay to talk about that.
Well, absolutely, no problem. I'd like to share the fees so that people can understand what the actual market is, so they can gauge themselves into being in the competitive position. Um, Actually, there's no particular um, uh, service fees that we charge per LMIA, in the sense that one LMIA can have 1 or 10 workers in it, right? But it's going to be the same process. There's just more names in an LMIA, but the processing is the same. And actually, when an employer hires more workers, they're paying more money to the government. So you have to be able to do the math and see where employer could actually hire more people, as opposed to you charging more money for the LMIA. Administratively, you calculate your hours and all that, and all those assistance that you need to do for the employer. I would prefer helping the employer doing the ads, but doing the ads for them is actually a lot of work too as well. Of course, we cannot do the interviews for them, but you have to help the employer monitor their advertising and all that. Requirements for LMIA, they have to be complete. But again, it depends on the volume. I would say on an average, an LMIA should be only 2,000, maximum $2,000 if the employer is hiring more than 3 workers. Because right now everyone's counting every cent, right? And we're all in a tight place. But when you focus on like how many workers can I bring, then you also have to be fair to the employer. Also, what does it mean for you in terms of recruitment fee? Um, Again, if you're bringing a worker, not just a temporary foreign worker, but also permanent residents, eligible candidates, you can charge them for the PR, which means you can be retained as their immigration consultant already before they even get on that LMIA. But for you to offer those services, the PR service, it will be unethical for you to do that if the worker does not qualify or eligible. And this is, again, as a matter of a question to Michelle's question. Do they have to prove that they're already eligible? Yes, as an applicant, but also for us in our professional conduct, we have to make sure that the person that we're offering our retainer services to is actually eligible for the process of for these requirements. How much do we charge for permanent residence applicants? Somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000, actually, depending on their nationality, occupation, and all those things, including administrative steps, translations. Like we don't have our own in-house translation company department, so including also, like, if we want to specialize or we want to develop a pool, we call them manpower pool in a certain country. Of course, the other partners that you deal with also would want their money. They're not going to work for you for free. So I guess, like, if you are making 4,000 per worker when you do a recruitment, which includes already their PR and all the LMIAs and work permits, if you're making 4,000 per worker on average, then you'll be happy. I guess for us, we're happy, but with such a big company, we have utilities to pay, or we need more volume. And again, like, we are here to help others too. For example, like, you find a certain employer, but you don't know where to recruit, then we'll be more than happy to partner with other immigration consultants that don't have the license to recruit from another from another country, or they don't have the license to because we have recruitment licenses now in Canada, right, Kyle? I think we have slides coming up for that.
We do. It's the next two.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Actually, let's move on to just a quick little reiteration of common mistakes for LMIAs or the work permit, as you mentioned.